Hello, everyone. Sometimes in life, people get lucky and land in the leader's seat before they've had time to learn how to lead. When that happens, it's easy to buy into ideas that seem right but aren't. Putting on a show of busyness so employees think you're hardworking. Fixating on targets without caring what obstacles employees face while doing the job. Being overly harsh with newcomers to assert authority. Some go even further, packing the calendar with meetings to get a handle on things, equating lightning-fast decisions with decisiveness, and micromanaging every little detail because no one is as trustworthy as myself. On the surface, it all sounds reasonable. A boss should be strict, fast, and in control. But in reality, these habits quietly erode the team. Top performers lose motivation because they aren't trusted or empowered. Newcomers are afraid of making mistakes and stop asking questions or trying things. Departments pass the buck because targets overlap. Meetings multiply while real work slows. Lopsided comparisons spark conflict. Short-term numbers might tick up, but trust, morale, and cohesion slide downward. Today, I'll lay out and unpack 10 misguided thoughts of foolish leaders. If, at some point in life, you catch yourself slipping into any of them, fix it right away. Listening to this video can also help you drift off to sleep or simply relax. Remember to like and subscribe, and if you're curious what a foolish leader might think in a particular situation, drop your question in the comments. I'll break it down for you. Thank you so much, and let's get started. The foolish think that being a leader means you must be strict to be respected. This belief mixes up two different things, fear and respect. Fear makes people stay quiet and rush to finish the task at hand. Respect makes people proactive, willing to take responsibility, and eager to contribute their effort to the company. When a leader chooses excessive strictness, harsh tone, severe criticism, direct blame, the first thing that happens is that people on the team hesitate to tell the truth. They hold back their opinions, step away when they see risk, and choose the safest path to avoid being scolded. Work may look orderly on the surface, but underneath it lacks creativity and care. Tasks are merely completed at a mediocre level. Prolonged strictness also breeds a habit of dodging responsibility. When people make mistakes, they don't dare admit them. When they're stuck, they hide it. When they need help, they hesitate to ask. Small issues that aren't raised early accumulate into big problems. Quality declines. Yet it's hard to detect in time because no one dares to report it. The leader then feels compelled to scrutinize more closely and intervene more often. Pressure rises, the workplace grows tense, and top performers are likely to leave. Over time, the team is left with mostly average members, lacking the talent needed to solve hard problems, and overall effectiveness drops sharply. The right kind of strictness, clear requirements, clear standards, clear boundaries, is necessary. But excessive strictness that stokes fear only creates the appearance of discipline while masking a team that lacks cooperation, a learning mindset, and a sense of ownership. True respect does not grow out of fear. It comes from fairness, consistency, listening, and standing up for the team when needed. So why do foolish leaders often think they must be that strict? People who believe in hard-line leadership are often seeking a feeling of certainty. When the voice is louder and the commands are crisper, things seem to fall into line immediately. The office is quiet, everyone looks focused, and work proceeds according to plan. The short-term result is appealing. Order appears quickly. This feeling can be addictive because it shows power producing instant effects. From there, it's easy to conclude, as long as I'm strict, everyone will work hard. Another point, silence is often mistaken for respect. When there are fewer opinions and fewer debates, leaders can easily think employees admire them and follow their directions. In reality, silence may just mean people want to avoid trouble. But because outward signs, order, less noise, are easy to observe, while inner qualities like morale, diligence, and initiative are harder to see, People lean on whatever shows up fastest, a strict image and immediate compliance. The fear of being seen as weak also plays a role. Leadership is often equated with boldness and decisiveness. Many worry that if they are gentle, ask questions, and listen, they will be viewed as lacking authority. So they assert power through tone, discipline, and penalties. Doing so reassures them about their leadership status. It may also be a habit learned from a previous environment. If you once worked where employees only work hard when the boss raises their voice, your brain records a simple formula: loud scolding equal effective direction. That formula works in a few short-term situations, which makes it even easier to reinforce. The human brain tends to prioritize quick results. Whatever delivers immediate feelings is believed more readily than what is effective slowly and less visibly. A lack of experience with soft skills in the workplace also pushes people toward heavy criticism. How do you ask open questions well? How do you give direct feedback without hurting people? How do you delegate while maintaining standards? If you're unfamiliar with these skills, strictness becomes a shortcut. Fast, concise, and instantly impactful. It's like having only one tool in the kit, the hammer, and using it on every nail. There's also a quiet worry, fear of a disorderly workplace. Working together naturally brings different ways of thinking. Differences lead to debate, time spent, and sometimes noise. Leaders who want quick resolutions choose to tighten the reins so the team stops having time-consuming arguments. This feeling of calm is very attractive to a leader who wants everyone to agree and do things their way. Lastly, the belief that strictness earns respect comes from a desire for recognition. At the top, everyone wants to make a mark and build their image. A commanding voice, visible zeal, quick decisions, tight discipline. These are easy to notice. The quieter marks, building trust, patiently coaching, encouraging, and rewarding at the right moment, are harder to display immediately. Wanting to be recognized and remembered, leaders may unconsciously choose the easier, more visible path, being strict. In short, this belief stems from very human needs: craving certainty, fearing being seen as weak, favoring quick results, lacking soft skill tools, fearing disorder, and wanting a clear personal imprint. Understanding these layers of psychology helps us judge less and change more. Once a leader sees the difference between fear and respect, between outward order and inner drive, they can adjust. Keep standards clear, but listen more. Hold the line, but encourage honesty. Be decisive where needed, but leave room for learning and repair. Durable respect tends to grow from there. 2. Only care whether employees hit their KPIs without paying attention to the difficulties they face during the work process. KPIs and results are the destination. The work process is the road, and the difficulties are the obstacles. If you only look at the numbers and ignore the road, you won't know why the numbers go up or down, nor what's blocking employees from reaching the finish line. When a boss only asks, "Is it done yet?" people will rush to finish on time rather than finish the right way, which easily leads to rule breaking or to choosing only easy tasks just to get them over with. Failing to ask about difficulties also makes employees hide small problems. Team members feel no responsibility to bring up their own mistakes or others' mistakes. They just need to finish their piece to report to the boss. Small issues that aren't fixed early gradually turn into big ones. When they blow up, the consequences are serious. Overimposing targets also makes the workplace tense. Everyone burns out, top performers get disheartened and leave. In the long run, the team only works hard under pressure from above, lacking intrinsic drive and learning. The boss turns themselves into a work-tallying machine, constantly micromanaging without understanding where the real obstacles are. In short, focus only on numbers, and you may get surface-level achievements while the foundations grow weaker. Why do foolish leaders care only about whether KPIs are met and ignore employees' difficulties? First, Numbers feel certain. KPI dashboards are clear, measurable, comparable. You can see results at a glance. That feeling is comfortable and low effort, especially for weak leaders who know next to nothing about their employees' work and only know how to manage people and ask, "Is it finished?" Truly understanding the work requires study, reading, comparing, making judgments. Their minds naturally gravitate toward the easier route. Second, pressure from above also speaks in numbers, monthly, quarterly, yearly targets. As deadlines approach, leaders push harder. By chance, this works a few times, leading them to believe that simply applying heavy pressure will make employees deliver. Third, when employees explain their difficulties, these leaders mistake it for stalling. Some also think employees bring up problems as a pretext to demand perks or a raise, so they avoid the topic. To dodge hassle, they adopt a quick and dirty rule: just tell me the result. Fourth, incompetent leaders lack the domain knowledge to listen, resolve problems, and work together on better ways of doing things. They can only lean on targets, set goals, track dashboards. It's the least effort way to create the appearance of good management while avoiding the uncomfortable truth of being a leader who doesn't understand the work. Fifth, they prioritize their own achievements. A KPI sheet with standout numbers makes a leader look impressive to higher-ups, while hidden obstacles, broken processes, faulty tools, and equipment rarely win praise. The brain favors what's salient, so they unconsciously value their own results over others' difficulties. Sixth, they avoid emotions. Work difficulties bring feelings: worry, fatigue, discouragement, confusion. So, self-centered bosses focus only on numbers, sidestepping tough issues to keep themselves comfortable. Seventh, a culture that glorifies end results. When rewarding someone, people tend to ask only whether the person excelled, never why others couldn't. If awards, titles, and leaderboards are highly attractive and tied only to numbers, then fixating on results becomes inevitable. Eighth, they confuse deep trust in employees with abandonment. Setting clear targets and trusting employees' ability to deliver can be good management, but many weak leaders misinterpret this as leaving people to fend for themselves, with no partnership or support through difficulties. Ninth, they believe hardship will automatically spur diligence and creativity. Some think results-based rewards and penalties are enough for everyone to find the best way to perform. That's only partly true. If the work infrastructure has holes, broken processes, poor tools, and equipment, no amount of carrots and sticks will make the job easy. Finally, the habit of stopping at "is it done yet?" conveniently serves irresponsible leaders' aims, so they never ask why, where, and when. If they understood these psychological drivers, they might change. KPIs are still necessary. They mark the finish line for everyone on the journey. But to complete that long journey efficiently, leaders must notice, acknowledge, and help employees overcome the obstacles in their work. 3. A foolish leader often thinks that all the credit belongs to the leader, so the leader should receive the most rewards. This way of thinking confuses a leader's role with their actual contribution to a team. A boss's job is to set direction, match the right people to the right tasks, remove obstacles, and take overall responsibility. But results are built from many layers of work: the doers, the supporters, the processes, the tools, and the coordination. When we pile all the credit onto the person at the top, we erase the effort of the many. When recognition goes to the wrong people and high performers aren't acknowledged fairly, their enthusiasm drops, and they do only just enough. Newcomers who see this quickly conclude that no matter how hard they try, no one will recognize them. If rewards always go to the leader, talented employees won't be rewarded. They'll leave, and the team's capability will decline with them. When rewards are based on feelings, employees focus more on the leader's mood than on the work. They learn to say what sounds pleasing instead of producing results. They don't concentrate on improving processes or products. They concentrate on writing polished reports and looking busy. The outcome is that real problems get buried. Performance stagnates, talent loses heart, and the organization loses its ability to learn and innovate. In short, treating all credit as the boss's is a simplistic, overly subjective view that damages the fairness standards of an effective civil workplace. Why do foolish leaders keep thinking all the credit is theirs and only they deserve the praise? Because they like tidy stories. The brain favors narratives with a central character. A single figurehead makes things feel clear, so the complex contributions of many people get compressed into the most visible person on the team, the leader. What's most visible is mistaken for what's most important. Leaders show up at visible moments, giving speeches, signing off, summarizing. That visibility creates the illusion that this is where results come from. They dislike the hassle of dividing credit. Sharing credit requires careful observation. Who contributed what and to what degree? That takes effort and invites friction. Dumping it all on the leader avoids debate, comparison, and time-consuming review. They're swayed by praise. Team members may feel that applauding the team's success by praising the leader will win favor and help them at work. That short-term sense of safety feeds a culture of flattery. Praised and flattered, foolish leaders feel even more powerful and talented, which inflates their illusion about their own contribution. They habitually equate position with value. In many group settings, people automatically assume highest title, biggest contribution, most deserving of reward. This is the lazy judgment of those who won't examine individual contributions and outcomes in a large team. It's quick, but wrong, because title is a role, while credit is a concrete result. They lack detailed information about how the work was done. As noted above, a weak leader often looks only at numbers and finished outcomes. The struggles along the way and the dedication, talent, and creativity of those who made the success possible go unseen. They overemphasize personal responsibility. Leaders often believe that managing, pushing, synthesizing, and reporting on the work of the entire team is the heaviest, hardest part. When results fall short, they also bear the greatest accountability. From that, they conclude their contribution is the greatest, so they deserve the most reward. They cling to the illusion of one person solves everything. Combine the belief that every group has a standout savior with the belief that the top leader is that standout, and they end up thinking they alone solved all of the team's problems. To sum up, the boss contributes by role, opening paths, managing, handling major obstacles, and taking final responsibility. The team contributes through concrete work, quality of each task, persistence, and coordination. When giving rewards, it's best to separate these two layers. The boss is recognized for creating the environment, setting direction, and executing sound management. Individuals and groups are recognized for their specific professional contributions. That approach preserves fairness, sustains motivation, and strengthens the organization. Believing that more and longer meetings prove you are bearing the brunt is a confusion of noise with value. Meetings are only a tool to clarify issues, align direction, and make decisions. Used poorly, a tool does more harm than good. 4. Fools think that being a leader means holding lots of long meetings to prove they're a great leader. A leader's role isn't measured by the number or length of meetings. What matters are clear goals, timely decisions, and concrete results. When someone tries to prove their competence by scheduling many long meetings, the following problems usually appear. First, progress slows. Every meeting steals time from focused work. Real work gets interrupted, and tasks are delayed because people wait for meetings and alignment before acting. Second, decisions become slower and lower quality. With a packed meeting calendar, the chair often rushes decisions to stay on schedule, even when data is incomplete or criteria are unclear. Then things must be redone and remet about, wasting effort. Third, priorities and workflows get scrambled. Too many meetings make every topic seem equally important. The team loses focus on a few core goals and drifts across scattered items. Fourth, autonomy declines. When everything is taken to a meeting, people develop the habit of waiting for instructions. Simple tasks that should be handled directly get stalled awaiting official direction. Fifth, morale drops. Long meetings are exhausting, making it hard to sustain determination and effectiveness. Sixth, people resources are wasted. Meeting time is a real cost. Many participants spend hours with no clear output, draining capacity. The result is a busy organization with little progress. Effective leaders ask, do we really need a meeting? What is the meeting's goal? Who truly needs to be there? How much time is enough? What specific output is required? What decision, by whom, what next step, and by when? So, why do some foolishly believe leadership requires many long meetings to look competent? This belief springs from common emotions and habits. Understand the reasons below to adjust behavior without changing your personality. 1. Fear of seeming indifferent. If they don't show up and check in often, some worry colleagues will think they don't care about the work or the people. They increase meetings to signal presence and oversight. 2. Desire to control risk. Hearing everything directly and immediately feels safer. Frequent meetings create the feeling of staying on top of things, even though many updates could be handled with concise written reports or asynchronous channels. 3. Lack of a clear reporting system. Without templates, continuously updated metrics, and a fixed reporting cadence, leaders default to meetings as the simplest way to get the picture. In the absence of alternatives, meetings become the automatic choice. 4. Weak task triage and sequencing. Not every leader can sort items into decide now, monitor periodically, or delegate. Without this skill, more meetings feel safer because everything is reviewed by everyone. 5. Good intentions about inclusion. They want everyone to be heard, but without firm limits on time, scope, and participants, the meeting drags and effectiveness suffers. 6. Past experiences. If they've seen work fail for lack of communication or been criticized for not surfacing personal issues for group alignment, they may overcorrect by adding more meetings to avoid a repeat. 7. Pressure to prove oneself in a new role. A crowded meeting schedule signals activity. Leaders jump into many small items to miss nothing, leading to overload and longer sessions. 8. No team-wide communication infrastructure. Announcements can come anytime. With no norms for response times or channels, groups default to all-hands catch-up meetings that stretch on. 9. Confusing team cohesion with constant meetings. Real cohesion means agreeing on clear shared goals, acknowledging results, and assigning responsibilities, not purposeless meetings that lack problem-solving, wrap-ups, or implementation plans. 10. Confusing effort metrics with outcome metrics. Leaders may use meetings to log collective time spent instead of focusing on core results, mistaking frequent meetings for diligence. In reality, strong numbers, revenue, output, etc., rising without many meetings are the true sign of effectiveness. To break this loop, apply a few simple, concrete steps. State the meeting's objective in one short sentence. If you can't write it, cancel or replace with a written update. Invite only decision makers and responsible owners. Time box to what's actually needed. Set clear start and end times. Share a brief pre-read. Context, key facts, options, and a recommendation. Define the decider and decision criteria before you begin. End with specific outputs: the decision, the owner, the deadline, and how progress will be reported. None of the above is meant to reduce a leader's care. The goal is to turn that care into real momentum. When meetings return to their true function, solving problems that require multiple people or making joint decisions, organizations feel lighter, work moves faster, and a leader's image is clarified by results. Staying respectful, giving regular updates in the right channels, and running purpose-built meetings will demonstrate commitment in a sustainable way. 5. A foolish belief is that a leader must look busy so employees will think they're highly committed. A packed schedule doesn't prove leadership quality. Deliberately projecting constant busyness creates only a temporary impression but leaves clear consequences. Priorities get inverted. Time is swallowed by minor tasks and interruptions. Core goals lack deep thinking and proper follow-through, so effectiveness drops. Poor decisions. Constant task switching tires the brain and starves it of data. Decisions are rushed, then must be corrected, consuming the whole team's effort. Lower team autonomy. A leader present in every detail trains people to wait for instructions. Work that should be handled independently gets delayed, stretching timelines. Unmanageable communication. Endless messages, ad hoc meetings, and frequent schedule changes make it hard for others to plan work and life. Focus falls, output quality declines. Eroding trust. People see lots of activity but few concrete results. Without clear priorities and direction, motivation to contribute fades. Worse health and alertness. Late nights, always-on replies, and no thinking space gradually degrade work quality. Real commitment shows in clear goals, uninterrupted deep work blocks, explicit delegation, transparent outcome metrics, and stable cadences for reporting and updates. These create sustained progress. No need to perform busyness. So why does this belief, that a leader must look busy to signal commitment, persist? It stems from familiar emotions and habits. Understanding them makes change easier. Fear of seeming indifferent. Not replying instantly or being ever present can be read as irresponsibility, so people over-signal that they're doing a lot, equating presence with contribution. Being everywhere feels like staying on top of things. In reality, meaningful contribution requires preparation, filtering, and deciding at the right time. Activity-based rewards. Workplaces often praise fast responses and frequent participation. When evaluations overweight those signals, people inflate replies in meetings to feel safe. Weak prioritization and delegation. Without a method to sort what's critical, what needs monitoring, and what can be handed off, the default is to join as many tasks as possible to feel in control. Discomfort with idle time. Sitting to read, set goals, or review data doesn't feel exciting, so people fill the vacuum with meetings, messages, and constant checking. Risk control impulses. Diving into details creates a sense of control, but over-involvement clogs workflows because staff must stop to report and explain. Without a line between support and interference, busyness is inevitable. New role pressure. New managers want to prove value. Taking on many threads and replying constantly brings early reassurance, then hardens into habit. Unclear communication norms. Messages can arrive anytime. Without set response windows and channel rules, work becomes a non-stop stream. Busyness turns into the default. how to break the pattern. Simple, concrete moves. Define 3 weekly priorities. Then break them into daily tasks. Set fixed response windows. For email and messages, avoid replying outside them. Reserve deep work blocks for important problems. Silence notifications during those blocks. Establish multi-delegation rules. Assign the goal, grant decision rights within clear boundaries, and agree on concise reporting. Replace long status meetings with short written updates. Meet only when a shared decision is needed or many people must work together live. Define outcome metrics for each objective and update them on an agreed cadence. These steps don't dampen a leader's energy or resolve. They convert care into clear results, a steady work rhythm, and a healthier mindset. When the focus is on goals, priorities, delegation, and measurement, there's no need to perform busyness. People see direction and momentum in tangible outcomes, while the leader stays calm and clear-headed for the long haul. 6. The naive belief that a leader must fully understand every task in every department of the company. This thinking is wrong from the start. A leader's job is to set clear goals, choose direction, assign the right people, create conditions for the team to do great work, and be accountable for results. That role is different from grasping every detail of every department's work. When someone tries to act as if they know everything, they easily end up taking on too much and meddling in minor decisions. Work slows down because they want to approve everything. The cadence is disrupted, opportunities pass by, and their ability to lead and steer the company declines because they don't have the time to handle it all. The next consequence is the stifling of the team's expertise. Skilled employees feel their opinions are not heard. They gradually avoid proposing ideas and simply follow orders. The company steadily loses a source of new ideas, and small mistakes accumulate into big problems because the people who understand the work best are not allowed to make timely decisions. When leaders always pretend to have a handle on everything, reporting becomes less effective. Employees hesitate to ask questions or admit what they don't fully understand. Errors get hidden or presented half-heartedly. Instead of seeking early solutions, people try to prove that everything is fine. Risks quietly rise, and when they erupt, they're hard to deal with. Leaders also put themselves on a path to burnout. They cannot keep up with the pace of change across multiple work streams at once. They spend their time reading and replying to trivial matters instead of building systems, people, and strategic priorities. Exhaustion erodes judgment, internal conflicts increase, and talent leaves. Ultimately, this approach does not scale. An organization that wants to grow must rely on systems, clear roles, processes, and mutual trust. If everything is tied to one all-knowing person, the organization plateaus at that individual's ceiling. When that person is absent, work descends into chaos. So why do some misguided leaders think they must understand every task in every department? 1. They fear being judged as weak. In environments that prize certainty, many assume leaders must have an immediate answer to every question. They fear saying, "I don't know," will damage credibility, so they assert control and wade into details to signal command. 2. They carry over habits from their specialist days. As employees, they succeeded by personally solving narrow problems. Upon becoming leaders, they keep doing the same, jumping in to fix every task. Over time, they mistake this for their role, forgetting leadership requires a different skill set: setting goals, delegating, giving feedback, and building a team. 3. They misunderstand responsibility. They think being responsible means personally knowing and deciding most things. In reality, responsibility is ensuring outcomes through good operating mechanisms, picking the right people, setting standards, measuring with data, and intervening when there are warning signs, not becoming a subject matter expert in every area. 4. They lack reliable information systems. Without clear data, concise reports, periodic checks, and measurement criteria, they must rely on gut feel. To feel safe, they dive into details to check for themselves. This feeling is addictive. The more they intervene, the more they believe they need to be everywhere. 5. External expectations pressure them to appear omnipotent. Senior leaders, customers, partners, and even internal comms can unintentionally glorify the image of a leader who single-handedly handles any tough situation. Feeling obliged to meet that expectation to maintain status, they rarely admit knowledge gaps or the need for consultation. 6. They lack the skills to ask questions and listen. Many are used to answering quickly rather than probing further. They haven't practiced asking brief, clear, pointed questions that prompt employees to analyze and commit to timelines. Lacking this skill, the natural solution is to decide everything themselves for speed. 7. Incentives may push them this way. If results are credited to individual heroics rather than team achievement, leaders are tempted to insert themselves into as much as possible to leave a mark. 8. They are risk-averse about delegating. Delegation means accepting early mistakes, training, and tracking progress. In the short term, doing it yourself is faster. Under short-term KPI pressure, they choose the quick route. Over time, they convince themselves others can't do it as well, so they keep the work. 9. They lack candid feedback. Without a coach, peer, or team willing to speak up, they don't see the harm. Silence keeps the peace. The leader grows more certain their approach is right. 10. The influence of daily communication habits. In meetings or routine directions, they notice that knowing every angle of the work seems to grant more authority in front of the team. Over time, this habit builds the image of an all-knowing leader. To change, leaders need a few simple but clear shifts. First, define role boundaries, what you need to understand and at what depth, and what is owned by whom. Second, agree on a concise reporting mechanism centered on key metrics, milestones, and risks. Third, practice asking before telling, what is the goal? What data supports it? Which options are viable? Who is accountable? What are the checkpoints? Fourth, explicitly allow employees to say they don't fully know yet, while always giving them time to find out, paired with a firm deadline. Fifth, reward team outcomes and the growth of those entrusted with work, rather than the volume of tasks the leader personally handles. When these practices become routine, the urge to act like you know everything naturally diminishes. A leader's credibility will then come from clarity, consistency, data-driven decisiveness, and wise use of people, not from meddling in every detail. This is a more sustainable path for both the individual and the organization. 7. A foolish person thinks that to be a leader, you must make decisions very quickly to be seen as decisive and talented. Many people assume speed is the main criterion for judging a good decision at work. In reality, the value of a decision depends on the goal to be achieved, the sufficiency of information, the risks involved, available resources, and the impact on stakeholders. When a leader focuses solely on speed, they tend to skip clarifying the objective, fail to check whether the option fits the context, neglect to consider downstream effects, and ignore the cost of fixing mistakes. The result is often poorly grounded decisions that change frequently, wasting time and money to repair. Making decisions too quickly also sends ambiguous signals to the organization. Subordinates don't have time to understand the rationale or the evaluation criteria, so they act by guessing the leader's intent. Progress may look fast at first, but quality drops, rework increases, and plans are constantly revised. The work atmosphere becomes tense because everyone is always waiting for the next order. with no room for challenge or improvement proposals. Trust erodes as decisions are inconsistent. One thing is said today and the opposite tomorrow. Equating quick decisions with decisiveness distorts the leader's role. True decisiveness is choosing the right moment to say yes or no based on the minimum necessary data, clear criteria, and a willingness to own the outcome. Some matters must be decided immediately because risk rises by the minute. Others require pausing to ask 2 or 3 key questions. When everything is forced to be fast, leaders lose the ability to distinguish levels of urgency and end up running the organization in a rush rather than by plan. Over time, the habit of snap, intuition-driven decisions impoverishes the capacity to learn. If errors caused by haste aren't analyzed for root causes, the team extracts meaningless lessons. Mistakes repeat at larger scales, bringing greater costs. A mature organization needs different tempos for different kinds of decisions. Low-risk issues can be decided quickly after a few checks. Matters involving many functions require more time to gather core data, clarify impacts, and set priorities. So why do foolish people think that a leader must decide very quickly to be considered decisive and capable? This belief often arises from role pressure. Many think leaders must always have an immediate answer. Standing before a group, being silent for a few minutes to ask for more information is easily perceived as incompetence. Fear of judgment drives them to favor instant responses to protect their image. The relief after stating a decision creates a feeling of control, even if the decision's quality isn't assured. Another reason is personal habit. Some have faced situations where quick decisions produced acceptable outcomes. These experiences foster a familiarity that processing information rapidly always works. Over time, they apply the same cadence to everything, regardless of nature. When a method has felt successful in the past, people tend to repeat it without asking whether conditions have changed. The reward environment also reinforces this belief. Workplaces that praise fast responders, quick updates, immediate rollouts, create the impression that speed is the top metric. When measurement focuses on timeline, number of decisions, or rollout velocity, leaders are pulled along, putting speed ahead of clarity of goals and data quality. Being praised for quickness creates a psychological loop that makes it harder to slow down later and verify. People are often uncomfortable with uncertainty. When information is incomplete, we feel in limbo. Deciding quickly quells that discomfort. The immediate emotional relief leads the brain to overrate the action, even though real benefits aren't verified. Without the habit of asking a few basic questions before committing, a leader will seek short-term comfort rather than tolerate a few minutes of discomfort to make a sturdier choice. A common misunderstanding in information processing is that asking thorough questions wastes time and will be judged as incompetence. In reality, asking clear questions shows the leader cares about goals and impact, not just appearances. However, if someone has worked in environments that value blunt declarations over reasoning, they may internalize this misconception. When they move elsewhere, they carry the old habit, believing everyone expects an immediate answer. The sense of control is also powerful. Deciding quickly lets leaders retain control and avoid listening to many opinions. Hearing more viewpoints demands patience and the skills of summarizing and problem splitting. If they're not used to it, leaders feel they're losing the initiative, so they choose the shorter path. Decide now. This brings short-term certainty, but weakens the team's capacity for discussion and consensus in the long term. Some leaders underestimate the cost of mistakes and overestimate the benefits of speed. They see obvious near-term gains, assigning tasks quickly, rapid rollout, but miss hidden costs such as rework time, inter-team conflict, degraded product quality, and lower morale. Finally, an incomplete understanding of decisiveness plays a part. Many assume decisiveness means giving an immediate answer. In fact, decisiveness means clarity on criteria, alignment on goals, defined boundaries of authority, and choosing a tempo appropriate to risk. Sometimes deciding now is right. Sometimes pausing 3 minutes to get two crucial facts is right. Once leaders grasp this, they are no longer led by speed. They choose fast or slow according to the nature of the matter, not feelings or image pressure. In short, the belief in always deciding fast stems from role pressure, past experiences, reward habits, discomfort with uncertainty, and an incomplete grasp of decisiveness. Understanding these drivers helps leaders build new habits. Clarify the goal with a few short questions. Quickly verify the minimum facts, weigh the key risks, decide at the right tempo, and own the outcome. This allows the organization to advance steadily without sacrificing quality or trust. 8. A foolish person thinks employee training is unnecessary. Just pile on tasks and they'll learn by themselves. When training is skipped, employees don't grasp the goals, standards, or correct methods from the start. Each person interprets things their own way. Results fluctuate, and work must be redone. The time that seems saved up front is then spent many times over on checking, fixing errors, and re-explaining. Without foundational guidance, newcomers handle tasks by personal habit, skipping important steps, keeping incomplete notes, and communicating inaccurately. Small errors crop up continuously and accumulate into major problems. Customers, partners, and related teams are affected. Reputation suffers, remediation costs rise, and plans fall behind. Psychologically, newcomers feel stressed because they don't know whom to ask, when to ask, or how to avoid being judged. They lose confidence, hesitate to take initiative, and burn out quickly. Experienced staff are constantly interrupted to answer repetitive questions, leading to fatigue and frustration. Team morale and collaboration decline. For team stability and growth, knowledge goes undocumented, conventions remain unclear, and every successor must learn from scratch. Managers get dragged into minutiae and have no time for long-term planning. Turnover and rehiring become more frequent because employees don't feel they're progressing or properly supported. The team is hard to scale because everything depends on a few individuals. Proper training does not slow the work down. If employees understand from the outset the goals, standards, process, checkpoints, and channels for communication and reporting, if they know what right looks like from day one, error rates drop, rework time shrinks, schedules stabilize, total team time is saved, quality becomes consistent, and employees grow more confident and committed. So, why do foolish people think training is unnecessary and that assigning lots of tasks will make people learn? Many people put their faith in direct experience. They believe hands-on exposure is the best teacher. They've seen a few cases where someone managed without training and then generalized that everyone will adapt. This view ignores differences in background, learning ability, and capacity to systematize. Deadline and KPI pressure pushes them to prioritize immediate outputs. When short on people or time, they cut training, assuming instruction takes too long while assigning tasks produces instant results, regardless of quality or sustainability. Many lack the skill to design a brief orientation or a basic set of standards. Unsure where to start, they skip training altogether and throw newcomers into the work, hoping they'll self-learn and improve. Some are overconfident in employees' capacity to learn on the fly. They think constant tasking automatically builds skill. In reality, when entering a new domain, people often make repeated mistakes because they rely on gut feelings. Some fear being judged as slow or fear being asked questions they can't answer. They avoid instructing to hide gaps in their own knowledge. This feeling is common when roles change quickly and there's no time to prepare. Short-term evaluation also contributes. Seeing a newcomer complete a few simple tasks They conclude that progress is happening and keep assigning more varied work. Another reason is overvaluing the supposed standard for proper training. They think training must be long, formal, and costly. They haven't realized that a 1-hour orientation, a concise set of standards, a 1-page process, and a weekly review can provide a solid foundation. Sometimes this high bar is just an excuse not to do it because they personally think it's unnecessary. Some view onboarding as a drain on time, money, and manpower with little benefit. They fail to see that untrained hires often cause delays, rework, and remediation, costs that are truly enormous. With good training, the upfront expense is small. A habit of ad hoc firefighting plays a role too. They solve issues as they arise, but rarely consolidate lessons into shared guidance. Without turning real-world experience into documentation, there's no ready-made knowledge base for onboarding. Part of the problem is organizational design. Some consider training to be someone else's job. Responsibilities aren't clearly assigned to any department or person. When no one is accountable, training gets skipped. Finally, they want to test and set expectations for new hires. They overload them to gauge endurance and learning ability. This approach favors stamina over actual learning and ignores the goal of building durable capability and enabling people to do the job right from the beginning. Looking squarely at these mindsets, the takeaway is this: training doesn't need to be complicated. Simply define the job goal, the result standard, the key steps, the checkpoints, and who answers questions and when. Clarify these 5 items before handing off the work, and you'll get higher efficiency, fewer errors, and faster growth for everyone in a stable, respectful environment. 9. Foolish leaders often compare one employee with another, one department with another. When a leader constantly compares, they're using a fast and superficial way to evaluate. People work in different contexts, different types of tasks, varying difficulty, unequal resources, different deadlines. Lining up surface results side by side usually ignores these factors, so conclusions are easily wrong. Those who are compared feel unfairly treated and lose motivation. Those who are often praised may neglect improvement because they think they're already good enough. As a result, the team becomes guarded, shares less experience, and everyone focuses only on their own piece. Comparisons also push employees to focus on appearances rather than the real value of the work. They pick score-friendly tasks, avoid hard or risky ones. Some even shape their reports to favor themselves. Foundational work, writing documentation, helping newcomers, tidying up processes, gets neglected. Over time, overall productivity drops, quality becomes unstable, and mistakes recur. For managers, chasing comparison tables burns time on conflict resolution, complaints, and resignations. The company pays extra for hiring and retraining, hurting timelines. The culture turns defensive. People hesitate to speak frankly for fear of being unfavorably compared. In the end, the original goal of boosting effectiveness isn't achieved, and a host of new problems appear. The right way to evaluate is to look at each person's objectives, role, and progress over time. Feedback should target the specific behaviors that person should keep and should change. Comparisons can be used for reference when contexts are similar and criteria are clear, but they shouldn't become a habit or the primary tool of daily management. So why do foolish leaders so often compare one employee with another, one department with another? Leaders tend to choose comparison first because it's the shortest path to seeing a difference. A standout number or result grabs attention. Investigating context, task types, output quality, real obstacles takes much more effort. When schedules are packed and pressure is high, the quickest evaluation, comparison, gets chosen. They may also believe internal competition will naturally make everyone try harder. This thinking stems from personal experience. Many were once high performers, used to setting their own bar and assuming anyone could reach it with effort. After becoming managers, they apply that same standard to others, forgetting that different roles entail different ways of working and different success criteria. Pressure from above and from business results plays a major part. When quick improvement is demanded, managers want to send a strong signal to the team. Comparisons give the feeling of tightening discipline. That feeling brings temporary reassurance, even if root issues remain. Moreover, many lack clear management tools, role-based goals, quality criteria for each task type, ways to recognize quiet contributions, so they substitute those with comparisons. Habits formed in the education system also have an impact. Many grew up with report cards and rankings, so they're used to viewing achievement through league tables. At work, that habit carries over naturally, even though the job demands a more multidimensional assessment. Certain biases in how information is noticed make comparisons alluring. People tend to remember standout and recent cases, overlooking unglamorous but essential work. They also overvalue easily measured indicators and forget hard-to-measure factors like reliability, collaboration, and long-term stability. When inputs are biased, surface-level comparisons become the easy conclusion. The need for control is another reason. Frequent comparisons create the feeling of having a handle on things because there's a table at hand. That feeling soothes managers even though it reflects only the tip of the iceberg. Conversely, many shy away from frank one-to-one conversations about areas for improvement. Speaking concretely with an individual about behaviors and expectations is hard. Using comparisons to apply pressure seems easier because it avoids sensitive details that could cause friction. There are also cases where leaders want fairness but choose an unsuitable method. Afraid of favoritism, they rely on direct side-by-side comparisons, hoping it's more objective. In reality, fairness requires role-specific criteria and consideration of context, not putting everyone on the same simple yardstick. Finally, there's a lack of skill in building work plans and goals. If objectives aren't broken down by role and quality criteria aren't defined by task type, evaluation inevitably leans on visual, side-by-side comparisons. The crux: leaders who compare a lot aren't necessarily trying to pressure the team. They may want speed and simplicity in people management, or they want to motivate, to be fair, or to feel assured under pressure. They're choosing the easiest short-term method. Once we understand these motives, we see that improvement lies in rebuilding the foundation. Clear, role-based expectations, measures suited to each type of work, feedback grounded in specific behaviors, tracking each person's progress over time, and encouraging collaboration. With a solid foundation, the urge to rely on superficial comparisons will naturally fade. 10. A foolish leader often pays excessive attention to employees' personal lives. When a leader fixates on employees' private matters, even when they're unrelated to work, the line between work and personal life gets blurred. Employees feel scrutinized, monitored, or compelled to answer uncomfortable questions. That feeling erodes trust and the sense of security at work. The leader's time and attention get drained by details that don't improve progress or quality. Instead of setting clear goals, tracking milestones, and removing professional roadblocks, the leader spends energy on side information. This misplaced focus leads to missed deadlines, slower decisions, and poorer coordination. When personal information is brought, however unintentionally, into performance assessment, it easily creates a perception of favoritism. Decisions about rewards and penalties, allocating opportunities, or judging capability risk being swayed by irrelevant factors. The team sees a lack of fairness, which breeds frustration and conflict. The work environment grows tense. People learn to dodge, speak evasively, or share just enough to play along instead of concentrating on goals. Energy that should fuel collaboration and creativity is spent on staying guarded and cautious. Productivity drops, and no one can see why. There are also compliance and policy risks around personal data privacy. Even unintentionally, remembering, passing along, or using private information can trigger complaints and damage the organization's reputation. Leaders themselves are prone to burnout when they take on too many matters beyond their control. In short, caring about people is essential, but it must be tied directly to the work, goals, capabilities, obstacles, working conditions, and broad policy supports. Matters unrelated to work should be respected as privacy. When boundaries are set correctly, the team feels secure, results improve, and leaders keep the focus they need. So, why do foolish leaders often fixate on employees' personal lives? First, fear of losing control. Some leaders believe that to keep results steady, they must grasp every detail. They treat any fluctuation in an employee's personal life as a potential work risk, so they ask a lot to stay on top of things. Lacking clear systems for measuring work, they rely on personal probing to regain a sense of control. Second, a lack of management tools. When leaders aren't proficient at setting goals, tracking metrics, giving performance feedback, and clearing blockers, they take the easiest route: deep personal chats. They think that knowing private life means knowing the person and therefore making better decisions. Without a transparent performance framework, though, personal data gets misused. Third, the urge to prove they care. Some fear being seen as cold, so they show concern by asking in-depth questions about private life. They equate more questions with more care. Yet, the right standard of care at work is support for the job and working conditions, not delving into private matters when the other person hasn't volunteered them. Fourth, importing everyday conversational habits into the workplace. Outside of work, many people ask personal questions to build rapport. As leaders, they keep that habit and forget that the workplace needs clear boundaries to preserve professionalism and psychological safety. Fifth, fear of missing early warning signs. Inexperienced leaders worry that if they don't ask thoroughly, they won't know when someone is struggling. That fear prompts them to inquire broadly about everything. This creates a feeling of constant checking, but is less effective at surfacing real issues than work data and properly placed support channels. Sixth, inaccurate evaluation standards. They measure care by the number of personal questions or the intimacy of conversations. The right yardsticks are clear goals, adequate resources, sound guidance, constructive feedback, and mechanisms to get help when needed. Eighth, limited understanding of privacy rights and data protection. Not everyone knows the basic limits, what is appropriate to ask, how to record, and how to use information. Because it feels like casual conversation, they fail to anticipate the risks. How to adjust. Define boundaries. Ask for and record only information that directly affects the work, timelines, safety, and quality. Use a management framework, clear objectives, completion metrics, and scheduled work check-ins. Set up official support channels, flexible time off, professional mental health support, and transparent procedures for requesting assistance. Leaders should direct employees to these channels instead of personally digging into their private lives. Build respectful communication habits. Seek consent before touching on private matters. Stop immediately when it's irrelevant. Don't store or pass along information beyond work scope. Provide brief training on privacy and internal policies for both managers and staff, so everyone understands the safe boundaries for discussions. When leaders understand the psychological roots and have effective substitutes, they'll be less inclined to wade into employees' private lives. They will still care, but with the right focus, goals, working conditions, and practical supports. Trust grows, work flows, and leaders maintain the concentration required for their core responsibilities. Here's the English translation. As you can see, a foolish leader often makes very ordinary mistakes, born of natural human psychology, selfish impulses, and outdated work habits. So whenever you're tempted into missteps like making a decision just to be quick, calling a meeting just to be safe, or reaching for a quick comparison, remember these principles. 1. Don't rush. Before any major decision, pause and ask 3 questions. What is the goal? What evidence supports it? Who will be affected? 2. Always account for the hidden costs behind any policy, the team's time, morale, and trust. 3. Turn your authority into the team's capability. Set clear principles, delegate for real, keep a steady feedback cadence, and measure by actual results, not subjective comparisons. If you slip up a little, don't worry. Stop, own the mistake when needed, and fix it immediately. Leadership is a habit forged day by day, not a one-off performance. I hope that after today's 10 points, you've gained deeper, practical insights into leadership. Thanks for staying to the end of the video. Sleep well and relax deeply. If you'd like me to analyze what a foolish leader would think in a specific situation, leave a comment, and remember to like and subscribe. Thank you so much.